Welcome to Bite Size Dental Marketing. Today I have Ian.
What's up? Hey, Eric.
What's going on? Did we have a guest today?
I did. I wanted to introduce you to another SEO expert that we have here at Pain Free.
This is exciting.
This is Bagheera. You can hear him purring. He's a part-time employee here at Pain Free and helps us with all things SEO.
He handles the citations from Bright Local. And
also any competitors using black hat practices, he'll step in.
Yeah, I like it.
Go back to sleeping.
It's going to be a very clickbaity episode. Cat. You got something on catnap. Name, address, phone consistency. Catnap.
Catnap and snake oil.
Catnap and snake oil. Yeah.
What are we talking about today, Eric? What are we talking about today?
You mentioned a good one. I want to talk about how if there is a shady part to dental marketing, I feel it lies within the SEO, the snake oil of SEO, and the lies that get told. I will say there's fear mongering. There's from just everything.
Promises,
SEO,
guarantees,
promises, everything. All the lies.
As much as you can go in the direction of snake oil, I'm sure you can see it in the world of SEO in some form of someone.
For sure.
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest sign of you're about to be played in SEO? You're about to be taken advantage of. Biggest sign.
Straight off the bat, guarantees and promises. That's the first thing that comes to mind when you say that, because there's no guarantees. Your first page. There's no guarantees in SEO, baby. There's no such thing. So if I hear any type of language of this agency said that they will get us to number one, or they said that they will remove these. We got some bad reviews. The
negative review is a big deal. Yeah,
big one. We can help you out with that. We can have those negative reviews scrapped, and nobody can promise you that they will be able to remove negative reviews from your Google My Business profile, because that is not a thing. You cannot do that unless it violates the terms and conditions of Google itself, and Google decides, yes, this violates our terms of policy and conditions. You can't have it removed. You
can have some, per your comment. We have had luck at having some reviews removed, but never around the care that took place in the practice.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
They've been ex-employees. They've been... We have
defamation. Defamation is a big one.
Yeah. We have had a couple of, not a patient of record, because they mention a different practice name.
And sometimes you get away with that, but even then, that's a roll of the dice. You're rolling the dice.
That's a dicey one.
Yeah.
But if someone comes in and says, I came in, I had a bad experience, as much as we hate to say it, that review will probably stand.
So we don't have to go on a tangent on this, but probably a good topic for next podcast is how we should then respond. That rather than thinking I'm going to find some shady agency that's going to find a way to remove this review, as a dentist, the first thing you should be thinking about is, how am I going to respond to rather mitigate risk and show the public that I can handle this, instead of either responding in a hasty manner and it looks bad, because the last thing you want to do is to respond bad on top of a bad review.
If you got to respond to bad reviews, that's a different problem. What other guarantees and promises get told?
The second one that follows, usually we can have reviews removed, is making promises around rankings. We can get you to number one. We'll get you ranking for dentists near me in no time. Or we have a formula, and if they do it in a very short amount of time, if they made that promise, it's most likely that something scaly happened, or something behind the scenes, whether that's toxic backlinks or buying backlinks in a big amount that Google will eventually penalize you on. that's not the route that you want to go. Getting to the number one position is a lengthy process of hard work and consistent work. So anybody that says I could just get you there, that's definitely a red flag for me.
If they are getting you the first pay or rank number one quickly, it's either, to your point, it's either something shady or it's for a term that's not very competitive.
Yes, of course. Competitiveness is a big play there. I mean, we've even seen in a short amount of time for dentists in a small area where there was maybe 5 or 6 other competitors. It definitely is possible if you outcompete your local dentist in the area.
Right.
Of course, you can get to number one, but that's where context matters. If you're in Dallas and you're a startup and you've just opened up, and there's, I don't even know how many different types of dentists in the Dallas and DFW area. If they're telling you they're going to get you into that map pack, I can promise you, as somebody that's been working on this for 3 years and it's a constant struggle, that's not happening just like that. So definitely time. Look out for that. Look out for that. Yeah.
I think the one that frustrates me the most is the fear mongering.
We've
Google,
seen that too.
We found this problem on your site that Google's going to punish. We found
only we can help you fix it. We'll fix it for you.
Only we can fix it. Yeah. The, these images are copyrighted, or any fear mongering is just, why go negative? I don't understand. I think if you're reading an email and it is going negative around the ADA is going to sue you, HIPAA information to Facebook.
Information, Unless a lawyer is contacting you, do not take that too seriously.
The level of scam that we've seen around SEO and websites is increased so dramatically over the last few years. And people are just spending money to have agencies go in and install, a $50 widget or something like that that doesn't even do anything.
But it costs, it ends up costing them a ton of money. Yeah.
But I think any fear mongering, I think if you get an email or something in a phone call around fear mongering, I think back to the times in my life to where someone has helped me. They contacted me out of good faith and they said, hey, I think that, I was looking on your website and I think that this is, not done right. Let me show you a website that was. Now, I know that's a nuance of fear mongering, but it wasn't like Google's going to shut you down. Facebook's going to shut you down. I think that's where I'm okay pointing out issues, but I think those issues have to have context.
And that's an important thing that we can also touch on is if somebody just comes around with you're doing this wrong and or your existing dental marketing company or any digital marketing, you're doing this wrong and this is bad, but they have no real, as you just mentioned, solutions or comparisons of, we had a client that had this exact problem. This is how we brought success to the table for them. And we very strongly believe we can do the same for you. Now, that is different than saying what you have now is terrible. It will only hurt you and you will get less patience because of what's happening. But that's it. Then out of fear, I will change, but you're not actually coming to the table with any real measurable solution that I could implement as a dentist or that shows some path to success over time.
I think the other one that you bring up is that I like is I agree. I think you need to show success. I think you also need to be above board with what tools you're using. Like if you're using, the Google page speed, if you're using SEMrush, if you're using something like that, I think you should see it because I do think the tool you use brings validity and confidence. But I sort of in the same vein of fear mongering, I find it very difficult to take someone serious when in the very first shot, they're taking a shot at the old marketing company or the old website vendor or something like that. I try really hard when we get into people say, what do you think about my site or what do you think about my marketing? I do try very hard of saying, look, I will give you a list of things that I like. Some of these are opinions, some of these are facts, but I do want you to take it back to your marketing team and give them a chance to remediate the issues. I think that any agency who out of the gate talks poorly of the effort is
it's not necessarily there to add value. They're not necessarily there. They're trying to point out others' flaws to try and get their foot in the door, which is not, I mean, that's not where you want to start. That's not where you want to start.
Yeah. And I think there's facts and there's opinions. And, you know, I like we love organic content on the site, right? We do not like stock imagery, and we like videos that highlight the staff. Well, I do think sometimes that will slow down desktop page speed. Well, you could ding us on desktop page speed, but I'm saying the good of that content outweighs the negative.
Exactly.
So, you know, you get into this, sure, I can get your page speed, you know, fast, but
there's a strategy as to what we're doing.
Yeah, there's a strategy to it. And I do find when that spam around websites and all gets fear mongering and shady, I don't know why you would trust someone who begins a relationship in the negative.
Yeah. And another big one that came to mind while you were talking now is very often somebody that does not have a marketing agency yet, if somebody does an analysis on them and they come to you and they say, or let's say we do an analysis on a practice and they don't have any marketing right now, to then tell them, okay, we see that you're ranking position 20, position 30 for these multiple posts. We do want to figure out how we can get that higher for you. We see that your page speed is low. We need to figure out how to do. That's one thing. The malicious side that you should look out to, as you're saying, is somebody will selectively build a report that points the holes in if you have an existing marketing agency now, points the holes in that marketing agency and why I'm getting to this is, let's say I'm competing against you, Eric's marketing agency. Eric has an existing client. I do a ranking report and I see that Eric has done a terrible job. They're on the 3rd and 4th page of Google. This does not look good. I take that, I go to your client, I speak to them. But Eric can also pull up a report that shows that month over month we've had growth and that rankings is not the end all be all. But then Eric needs to be able to have that conversation and be able to prove that and say that it's not always about the rankings, because that's not the only way in which people find you. That's not the only way in which we're doing marketing for you. You
have no idea where we started, how we've done the journey, what we've been focusing on. And exactly.
So the numbers at the end of the day is what matters. So if another agency comes to you and says that we can help you improve and you don't see an increase in the real numbers, then you're also not really succeeding. Similarly to how they can't poke holes in your strategy on something as that's such a variable factor as rankings, when it doesn't paint the whole story of how successful that practice actually is.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I find around SEO specifically that there's so much unknown around what SEO is. And we know it's that way because Google says our job is to deliver the most relevant results to the most relevant query. And you know, and if they told you how to do it, you would immediately have gaming of the system, right?
Of course.
So the lies are the guarantees, the promises, the fear mongering, and the throwing shade when they just lack the context of what's happening on the account. I mean, they're just you know, they're trying to begin a relationship in the negative. And it's funny when you think about it like that. I think if we were talking to a dentist, and I think if I went to the dentist and he said, in one visit, I can clean your teeth and you'll never have periodontal disease again, and all your teeth are going to be perfect, I would run. But when marketing companies do it to dentists, they're like,
this makes sense.
This makes sense.
But I think that comes from a place of maybe not knowing. And that's where the education part, and you mentioned something earlier that I really liked about knowing the softwares. Like, ask your marketing company what type of software you're using. Ask them, like, how are you determining success? Like, what is the outcome? What does the success look like? Instead of, like you were saying, just kind of staying in the dark and not really understanding what's going on. Because you'll be able to see if somebody is being foolish or trying to game you when they come with a certain report to you, if you understand it.
We should do another on what you should look for on SEO.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because we've talked about, you know, the fear side, but I think if an office called us and said, I have this report, it said my website sucks. What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. As long as they came from a place of, I want to understand what you guys are doing, and this scared me. I would love to answer that question.
Of course. And we've had that so often. We've gotten this report. They say that it's going bad. Please tell me what's going on. And
what are you guys? What are you doing for me? Sure.
It's as easy as show, and the easiest way we've answered that is by showing the real numbers, by showing the actual data, and say that, like I've said on this podcast many times before, it's everything with SEO is a piece of the puzzle. And at the end of the day, the only real form of judgment is the actual numbers, views on your website, on your Google My Business, and the number of patients coming into the practice. Between those two things, I mean, everything else is also important, but it just adds to the end story.
Right. Well, I think that's a good time to wrap it up.
Yeah, so, I like it. That was a good one.
Ian, thanks so much for your time, and that was your Bye to Dental Marketing for the day.
Thank you for having me, as always, Eric. It was such a pleasure. Goodbye.
Such a pleasure. Bye.
Such a pleasure.